Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you books that I will never stop recommending. So these are probably ones that you've seen me recommend time and time again, so I decided to make a video just basically being like, just, if you see these books on here, I'm probably going to be recommending them until the end of time. So yeah, these are kind of, I will say, like, one's kind of like a crime series one, and if you've been watching my channel for a while you probably already know what that one's gonna be. And then the rest are like historical fiction, because I think there's something special about historical fiction, how it is able to tie in real events and create such an impactful story based on world events that I think there's something really powerful about that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm gonna start with probably the most obvious one here, and if you guys probably already know what it's gonna be, but it's the Inspector Gamache series by Louise. This is hands down my favorite series of all time. This series is near and dear to my heart, and I do have an entire video dedicated to why I love the Inspector Gamache series, so you can go and check that out if you want to learn more. But I think there's something just really unique and impactful and powerful about this series as a whole. Not only does it take place in Canada, which so it reminds me of home, but I read the majority of these books during the kind of quarantine COVID lockdowns that were kind of on and off again for the last 2 years, and it just reminded me of home. And like, I wasn't able to physically be with my family back home in Canada, but I was able to be, with the family that is in here. And I think one of the major themes that is present in throughout this whole series is found family, and just, finding those friendships, and just creating that sense of family and that feeling of family that makes you feel whole. You feel in here, despite this being like a murder mystery series, like, I think there is something so special and powerful about how this series feels like home when I couldn't go back to be with, like, physically with my family. So the series will forever always be near and dear to my heart, and I cannot recommend this series enough. If you want to learn more about why I love this series, go check out my video. But yeah, this one was the obvious easy out. Next up, I have The Alice Network by Quinn. This is probably my favorite of her books thus far. It was the first one of hers that I read as well, and I think for me the reason why I'll never stop recommending this book is not only is it a phenomenal kind of World War I, post-World War II historical fiction that does a really good job of integrating the two different narratives, but it was a book that helped me get me through a very kind of hard time in my life. I picked this up right after my grandmother passed away, and it provided me with that distraction that I needed, that escape from reality that I needed to kind of get away from my grief. And so not only is this book, have that sentimental value to me, but it's just a really unique take on the historical fiction genre, because this one kind of covers the two wars, which I really enjoy, and I just love the relationships that form throughout this as well, especially between Eve and Charlie. Like, Eve is very cold, bitter, just angry, and just kind of seeing her eventually soften up and like warm up to Charlie was just a lot of fun, and just being able to kind of see that develop throughout the pages was a lot of fun. And also, while you're like seeing this happen, you get to understand why Eve is the way that she is, and like what she's been hiding and holding for so many years. So I think just the integration of the World War I kind of spy narrative following Eve and her contribution to the war, and its parallel with their current kind of quest together, I thought was really well done. And yeah, this is a solid historical fiction, as the rest of these recommendations are gonna be. I feel like I don't have to say too much about this because this is a Pulitzer Prize winner book, and you guys probably already know this, but it is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I read this when it first came out back like 2015, I want to say, and I was just blown away by the writing in here. I feel like the writing is what makes this book stand out. Not only does it have a very interesting premise and just how the author is able to weave in these two narratives of people that are that live completely different lives. But I think it's just his writing that makes this really stand out and makes it unique and fun and all like that. Like, I even got this book from my boyfriend for his birthday, and he was like, yeah, the writing in here is just like what makes this stand out in addition to its amazing story. But yeah, I feel like I don't have like, I feel like there's not a lot to say about this because I feel like everyone knows how amazing this book is. So yeah. So next up I have The Nightingale by Kristin. This is probably hands down, again, one of my favorite World War II historical fiction retellings, and I feel like this one really kind of jump-started the dual narration, focusing on women's story, kind of relating to historical events. I feel like this very kick-started that genre and brought it to kind of a wider audience and made it become very popular. I remember I was like one of the OG people that read this when it first came out, before it started to gain like a lot of momentum, and I'm happy that now it's getting the recognition that it deserves. But yeah, this was just an incredibly crafted tale of two sisters and their different experiences throughout World War II in Nazi occupied France, and just their different stories and contributions and experiences I thought was well done. And I think it's interesting. I feel like even if someone doesn't have like a sister, or like it could just be even like a close friend, I feel like there's something that every woman can relate to. And I think Kristin, I feel like she gets a lot of hate online for it being chick lit because she does focus on women's stories, but just because it's focusing on a woman's experience throughout a actual period in time doesn't mean that it is not of greater value than a male perspective. So yeah, like I said, this book is amazing, and I feel like on so many levels it kind of has kick-started and revitalized the World War II historical fiction genre. So I think not only is this book phenomenal, but it also, I feel like, has had a very big impact within the literary world as well. And lastly, I have Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. This is just an amazing trilogy overall, which I think, like I said, there's so many great things going for this series, and I do think I have like a trilogy review somewhere that I'll link up in the cards. But basically what I really like is that it is loosely based off of actual women's experiences throughout the war. So we follow the Faraday family through major, I guess, like World War and American history events. So the first one, we follow Caroline Faraday during World War II. The second book, Lost Roses, we follow Eliza and her, experience during World War I. And then we also follow their great aunts, I want to say, somewhere like great or great relative during the Civil War. So I think it's really interesting. You don't really need to read these books, the series, in any particular order, but I think it's really interesting following this family's contribution throughout the war. And again, similar to The Nightingale, it showcases what women were doing throughout these major historical events that, from a historical point of view of what you're taught in school, you're only kind of told what the men are doing. So I think that one is like this, that was what also makes this series really unique. But also the writing in here, there's something really gripping about this author's writing. And I read this originally like when it first came out, and then I reread it again with my aunt, and I was just totally forgot how not magical, but just so unique the writing is. Like, I'd be reading and then I'd look up and be like, oh my god, I already read 50 pages. Like, that's how you know it is a good author, when you just lose yourself in the writing like that. And like I said, it's loosely based off of these actual women, but I think it's very interesting seeing what these women actually did during these different time periods. I think it's just really interesting. And again, with this one too, you follow, in each of these books, you follow 3 different perspectives, and just seeing how the author is able to weave these little connections between these 3 different narratives. 2 of them, they're very obviously connected, but you don't know how the Caroline perspective fits into this, and just how she's able at the end to integrate all these different narratives and experiences throughout the war is really a lot of fun. So yeah, the series, this trilogy overall, is just phenomenal, and I cannot wait to see what she's gonna do next. That's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite books that you recommend a lot are, and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.